Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Anarchy Online. We are in the Shadowlands, finally. As we exit into the Shadowlands, this guy, Drake Rodriguez, gives us a bracer and blah blah blah, whatever, we can ignore that. That was part of a... At least I'm not... Honestly, I can't... This was part of a quest early, like when you used to be able to just start in the Shadowlands. I haven't been able to figure out what kind of, like, what this is for nowadays anyway, so whatever, just gonna delete it. He can give you a new one. Alright, this person wants to talk to us. I don't know why. Okay, a few things we need to know about the Shadowlands. And I'm just gonna kind of walk and let you enjoy the beautiful scenery. It really is quite a beautiful zone. All of them are quite beautiful, I find. This area that we're in here has the lowest level mobs, right? So level, even like below level 10. Let's reduce the size here a little bit. So we are in Nascence. This starting area, you could technically do just hang out in the Shadowlands the whole time, right? You don't really need to go to Rubica, but there's a lot of content that's been, that's really good in Rubica, especially at lower levels and some dungeons, so it's worth it to mix it up a little bit. So normally it would, of course, just make sense if I had just come in through the portal that's up here, but I just kind of wanted to walk through this area to show it to you. So Nascence is divided into this main trunk here. Then you can kind of branch off down this side. There's a series of islands. And here there is a village, the Redeemed Village. The Redeemed is the side that's aligned with the clans. And then on the other side, you can also walk through here. And there's the Unredeemed Village over here. There is a well-known area here called the Caves, the Croaker Caves. This is a good place to grind and to fight monsters just for experience when you're in your sort of levels like 30s or maybe even 40s. So we're going to actually go there right now, which is sort of in through here, this cave in there. Another very common spot is hecklers. So every Shadowlands zones has big scary monsters that live on the fringes. You see these red X's all around. They are very high level for the zone. So in Nascence, they're about level 80. And they're called hecklers, and they're an excellent source of experience. Basically up through there is where you would come out. Like somewhere behind this plateau is where you would come out if you paid 1,000 credits. So it's not a far walk. So hecklers people farm hecklers, especially at higher level. It's one of the most efficient ways to gain experience, but it's kind of boring. So maybe later we'll do some hecklers. So in Nascence, when people do hecklers, usually they do them down here. They run around this loop here. So the first thing we want to do is actually talk to this person. She's going to give us a quest. Which is going to get us started down the path of getting the key to the garden. So in each Shadowlands zone, there is a garden. In fact, there are two gardens. There's one for the Redeemed and one for the Unredeemed, which in other words is Clan and Omni. When you, in order to travel around quickly in the Shadowlands, you want to use these stones, and we saw one, and I'll show you another one in a minute. And using those stones, they'll teleport you to the garden, which on this map is, I don't know, somewhere. Doesn't really matter. This is the Elysium one. Whatever. Here. No, that's Job. Here. Okay. It'll bring you to this area. Let me keep talking to this person. And from here, you have access to all the other stones for that zone in very close proximity. So it's basically you can transport from any of these light blue sort of icons to each other, right? So that allows you to get where you need to go very quickly. In addition, there are some shops. You can buy things there. There are nanos that are only available in the Shadowlands that you have to buy from these gardens or sanctuaries, and you need to have the key to that garden in order to be allowed to buy those nanos. In addition, you can use a teleport statue to go from one garden, let's say the Aban Garden, which is in Nascence, to the Enel Garden, which is the garden for Elysium. So you can travel within the Shadowlands from zone to zone quickly that way. Now, you need to get a key to have access to some of that functionality, and that involves doing a quest, and these quests get very... Let's see, did she give me my item yet? Yes, she did. Okay, thanks you. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's not actually that interesting. So you have to do these quests to get the garden keys and the sanctuary keys. And those quests are very long and very complicated for the later levels. These are the stones that we're talking about. Now, you don't need a garden key to use. You can just use these insignias that drop from mobs, but they're one-time use only. So at first, we're going to need to farm a few insignias to be able to get this quest done. Now I can't even use it. This does nothing. I need to get some insignias. So the quest that we have to get the first key involves us going to the redeemed village, which is down there. In order to complete the quest successfully, we're gonna need to have a few insignias. You know what I'm gonna do actually is, I wanted to show you this cave here, but why don't I just... My original plan was go farm, go kill a few mobs here, get some insignias, and then just use the garden to teleport myself there. But why don't we just actually walk there, and we can fight some of these guys when we get there. And that way you get to see this part of the Shadowlands, which a lot of people just skip. They never fight here. This island here has mobs in the sort of 20s and 30s, but it is a huge pain because... These guys are all like, they have an ability that stuns you. They're a real pain to fight. So I don't recommend fighting in this area. Especially at lower levels, you're often pretty vulnerable. Yeah, I do not recommend that spot. Why don't we buff up quickly here? Let's go Metaphysicist. And let's, now that we have a bunch of NCU, I can kind of run these buffs, which was a bit of a pain before. I got these first. So these are teachings of SI and PM to buff by 25, which will allow me to buff the big ones. So I have SI. And then we should have PM. Let's also get matter creation. So right now I'm buffing all my nano skills. I could probably buff all of them actually because I have the NCU. Let's see, matter creation, BM, space time. I'll cancel some of these nanos after if it turns out I didn't need them. 120. Yeah, it doesn't leave me a lot, but I've buffed all my nano skills. And let's summon our pets. This is a healing pet. You can just heal me. And let's summon the fighting pet, who's not particularly strong, but you know. And then we buff him. Okay. Good. Let me just see if I had any other nanos, any other metaphysicist nanos that I was waiting to use. Oh, quench anger. Maybe. Let's see. These monsters are a bit low level for us. I guess because I'm running all the buffs, then I... where did it put it? I guess I put it here. I'm gonna forget. This is what, an adventure heal? Yeah, whatever. This we're not using anymore. All right, I'm totally gonna forget that I have that, but it's there anyways. Okay, so these spine tooth hatchling or spine tooth whatever, these are the guys that stun you. So we don't want to. Well, obviously now we're much higher level, we could fight them easily. But when you're low level, watch out in this area. So yeah, in the Shadowlands, monsters are generally more powerful than equivalent level monsters on Rubica. Mainly they tend to have a lot higher ACs, higher armor, which means that our weapons, unless your weapon has a high minimum damage, which the Caterwall doesn't, then it tends to be a lot less effective. So that's something to keep in mind. There's a ton of things about the Shadowlands. There's a ton of content. There are a lot of named mobs, so this map here will kind of show you all of these guys, and the named mobs have certain drops. There are a lot of sort of random dungeons that are just these little random nooks and crannies that you can enter that have usually higher level monsters than the area surrounding where the cave entrance or dungeon entrance was. They can be great for farming certain items that drop from certain types of mobs, because the dungeons have certain types of mobs that tend to hang out together. So if you were a shade, for example, here, let's fight some of these guys, because we do need some of these. We actually do need some of the why can't I think of the word that I want to say? The insignias. We need the insignias that are going to get us into the garden. Insignias can drop randomly from mobs in the Shadowlands, so you can kind of get them wherever you want. There are, of course, two kinds of insignias. Wow, we seem to have made a lot of friends. I'm not too worried because we're fairly high level compared to them. For some reason. Okay, I don't know if it was lag or something. I was having a hard time. Okay, why are you... You should be healing me, sir. And then you should be attacking the same guy I'm attacking. Right, we're not being very effective in the way we're fighting. Here, let's use this Metaphysis Nano. So, these guys also, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, have a kind of stunning ability. But I'm sort of high enough level that I can take on a few of these guys at the same time. Let's have the heal pit heal the attack pit just for a little bit, because I'm doing okay. Loot that guy that's on the floor. Alright, what do we have? Let's pick it up and inspect it in more detail later. Alright, let's have the heal pet heal me now. We've got concentration back. That's great news. Get a few shots off. So these guys were fairly low level, so even though we don't have a perfect weapon for the Shadowlands, it's still... we're still adequately equipped here. Alright, here we go. An insignia of a ban. So the insignias are specific to each zone, so getting insignias in Nascence is obviously only good for the garden in Nascence. We're gonna need a few... Oh, I should get these. Okay. Yeah, let me just loot a bunch of this stuff, and we'll talk about it as we move on. So we got our first insignia. I want to get a few more to do the quest successfully. So we're just going to hunt a bit more. Let's talk about some of this loot that we got. So, weapons in the Shadowlands. Some of them are very good. What they're great at is they have high minimum damage, which is very important for fighting hecklers and other high-level Shadowlands monsters. So as an agent, there's a rifle that drops in the Shadowlands that if we find a high enough level one, then that'll be very interesting to us. There's of course a lot of junk that drops. There's armor. For example, here we got Thar's Tunic. This armor compared to armor in Rubica tends to have higher ACs, and there are a few sort of named sets of armor in different areas of the Shadowlands. So you see here Thar's Circlet, Thar's Tunic. You know, they have slightly steeper requirements, but they give much more comprehensive AC protection. For now, I'm happy sticking with my levelable Joint Clans newcomers just because it's easier and it gives me NCU also. Now this is what I wanted to talk about, symbionts. So symbionts are super powerful. They are like super implants that instead of, you know how an implant you can only choose 3 things that it will buff, right? You can only put one bright, a shiny, a bright, and a faded cluster. Why did it take so long? It just wasted all of my total concentration because of lag. That's really frustrating. Symbionts, if we look at this leg symbiont, it buffs every skill that can possibly be buffed. So all the slots are all buffed. However, the downside is the requirements to equip it are much higher, both in terms of treatment and in terms of the stats. So, at lower levels, when you only really need to be buffing certain specific skills, it makes more sense to equip higher level regular implants than to try to squeeze into a symbiont, which is going to be almost impossible. Maybe starting at level 125 or something, you can start, sorry, not 125, like a quality level 125 symbiont in the head, for example, because that will give you all your nano skills. That will give a huge buff to all your nano skills. That might be your first like reasonable target in terms of, you know, when you want to start thinking about using symbionts instead of implants. So at the lower levels, symbionts aren't really used much, even though they still drop. So that's just something to keep in mind. Symbionts. There we go. We actually got an aim shot off. Oh, in terms of perks here, you might notice that I've got a new icon here, an aimed shot. This is just because I guess I swapped around perks a little bit. We still have power up going. Obviously, champion of nano combat. I had taken cartographer for a little bit there. I dropped it now because I had gotten a second general perk when I hit level 40, and so I put 2 into rifle mastery, just because rifle, we want to buff the rifle skill, and because that got me an actual use ability, right? Armor piercing shot. Aha! This is the last thing I want to. I'm glad we got that drop. I'm going to talk about this briefly. So first of all, this is the insignia for the Omni affiliated garden, which is the Garden of Thrak, or the unredeemed garden. So we don't need this. This is useless for us. In the higher level zones of Shadowlands, there are quests and there are like I think for the tier armor you need to have some insignias of the opposing side, so don't be so quick to throw all of them out. But and they're trickier to get because there are some mobs in the Shadowlands that belong to one or the other side, and killing the ones of the other side gives you faction bonuses and whatnot. You have like reputation increases. So in other words, it's easier to get insignias of your own side, which is logical, right? So getting insignias of the other side can be tricky. Get Shadow Step. That almost sounds... Oh, that's a fixer one. I thought it almost sounds like it's a agent buff. Okay, 3 insignias is going to be enough to get our key quest done. So we can just walk the rest of this trip. This is what I wanted to talk about. This Doja chip from Nascence. So this is the daily missions in the Shadowlands. If you kill a bunch of random mobs, eventually they will drop a Doja chip. And there's one for Nascence, there are some for Elysium, right? There are some in different zones. When I use this, it will give me a mission. And that mission involves me taking it to a specific person in this city, right here in the lab at R1. You see the mission points me there. And so this is basically a daily mission for the Shadowlands. So daily missions are great. Give you lots of experience for free. Okay, we're just going to walk across these platforms here and get to the village. So I chose to walk. Of course, the quicker way to get here would have just been to take the garden. If you had a couple of these insignias, you just could have warped to Silence. But I wanted to take the scenic route and show you this wonderful landscape. By the way, you can totally fall off here, and if you fall off, you will land in a random, but it's not random, it's always going to be the same one, but I use random in the sense that it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. In a random zone on Rubica. I guess if you could use that, you could sort of do that on purpose if you were trying to get somewhere in particular. Usually it doesn't help you get anywhere fast. So yeah, careful. If you fall off the Shadowlands, you will... you can end up in a few places. You can end up back in Job. Often, but eventually you just basically end up... Like here it says Job Research. If you fall off here, you will end up in Job Research. I wonder if it says... Yeah, most of these places in Nascence, you end up falling off. In Nascence, you end up falling off in Job Research. Anyways, try not to fall off, okay? Another thing while we're looking at the map here and as we're walking is each of the zones is connected to the next one. So Nascence is connected to Elysium, right? And in order to connect, actually the portal to connect from Nascence is actually down here. And there's a guy here called Ergo, but remember, we talked to Ergo already. We got the ring from him. Normally, in each zone, one of the big quests is the quest for the garden key and the quest for the sanctuary key. And another big quest is the progression quest to get the ring, or sometimes you need some special equipment, from Ergo to allow you to get to the next zone. For the first zones, it's not a big deal. You can just kind of go. But for the later zones, it's a huge pain to do those quests. Okay, we are trying to... Oh, it's got the wrong quest. That's why. All right, let's get into the city here. So, one way to get to Elysium is to walk down here and take the portal, and you will end up on the southern beaches over here, and then you're in Elysium. But usually people just enter through the portals in Job because it's much faster. Okay, so oh, did I not? Oh, I guess we'll enter over here. Okay, this quest that we're doing for the garden key basically involves us going back to... I mean, so how should I put this? The story behind a lot of these is just very kind of mystical, like, oh, they're like these beings of power that the gardens are named after, like Enel and Aban, and there's all this mysticism stuff. It's not incredibly compelling, so a lot of this dialogue is very kind of boring and slow, so I'm going to skip over it. I mean, obviously you can read through it, and they're all like, oh, I knew you would come, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, well, I kind of want to, I should show you the quest. I really should show it to you. Okay, we're going to try to click through this. It should only take a couple of minutes. And so, yes, I want you to help me with the agent device. It says, yes, I'm sure you're the chosen one, blah, blah, blah. And then, are you willing to commit to being good and awesome and all those things? So, we need to give him an insignia. Okay, I'm just going to interrupt him. I found the mark of a ban. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Then I need to... Then he's telling me, okay, now use the insignia to get into the garden, which we're going to do. So I'm going to... Oh, I want it to be near my character, because I always forget the exact location of the statue. Ah, it's to our southeast. So I'm going to let this episode run a little bit long, because I'm going to try to squeeze in the rest of this quest here. Or you know what? Maybe not. This would be a good time to... Let's end it here, and then we'll finish the rest of the quest in the next episode. So in the next episode, we are going to... Where's the statue? Here's the statue. In the next episode... Jeez. Thanks, Rubber Band. We are going to enter the garden, and we'll continue the rest of this little quest at that point. Thank you for watching. Take care.